But anyway, welcome. Now I can introduce everybody who is on the screen with me in our Zoom room. One who does not need any introduction to the subscribers of Pro Cannabis Media is Debra Borchardt from the Green Market Report. Hi, Debra. How are you?
Hey, Jimmy.
Glad to see you not on a Thursday and not on tape. Okay, so we're already live. That's what I like the most. Rick Thompson from Michigan is with us as well. Rick, how are you today?
Always great, Jimmy. Thanks for the invite, and I'm always happy to be here.
Terrific. And we're also joined by a special guest that we really hadn't planned on. However, there's breaking news coming out of Washington, D.C., because the U.S. House of Representatives has passed the Safe Banking Act, not for the first time, the second time, the third time, the fourth time it happened. Morgan Fox with the NCIA is with us, and he can actually give us some enlightenment, some insight on how the vote went down. The final score was 321 to 101. So, Morgan, there's a lot of very happy people in Washington, D.C. today, because I know a lot of people at the NCIA and all the cannabis advocates out there, they want to put something in front of the senators, and now they've got something they feel pretty confident about. Tell us how this all went down today.
Well, NCIA has actually been working on this legislation in different forms since 2013. So as you mentioned, this is the fourth time it's been approved by the House of Representatives, the first time being in 2019 when it was the first ever standalone cannabis policy reform bill approved by either chamber of Congress. That year, it was a 321 to 103 vote. So the margin is actually a little bit bigger this time. And this time, we actually had a majority of Republicans that voted in favor of this legislation. So, I mean, I think it's really indicative of the steady sea change that we've seen just year after year in cannabis policy reform. I think another benefit is that this time it happened a little bit earlier in the year and a little bit closer to reintroduction than it did last time, which really gives the Senate a lot more room to work on this bill for the remainder of the calendar year, if not the remainder of the current session. So we're incredibly happy, and we're very hopeful that Senate Banking Chair Sherrod Brown will start considering this bill and take it up for either hearings or markups in the very near future.
It's never a quick process in Washington, D.C. for these things. However, this is a major step. The first cannabis reform bill in 2021 to get to the Senate now. One of the things that I saw in your release that I got really about 30 minutes ago was the fact that a majority of Republicans in the House actually voted for this as well, because it seems the party lines are separating a little bit. They're softening a little bit. Am I reading between the lines here a little bit?
Well, I think it's a couple of factors. The first being that there are now more red states that have or are in the process of implementing regulated cannabis markets and whose constituents would directly benefit from passage of the Safe Banking Act into law. I think a second factor is that the elections in November showed Republican lawmakers that their bases increasingly support ending federal prohibition, as well as incremental forms of cannabis policy reform, and are starting to realize that there are going to be political consequences if they stand in the way of such reforms.
There you go. Debra and Rick, if you have a question you'd like to ask Morgan, this is kind of a free-for-all, an open forum for talk. So if you'd like to ask a question, you don't even have to raise your hand, just jump in or say, Jimmy, shut up, and I want to ask a question.
Well, Morgan, I would be curious to know what you think the reception is going to be in the Senate, because the House has always been the easy place to go. We always got stuck with Mitch McConnell not wanting to put it to a vote in the Senate. But even if it got to that point, do they have the votes or do they have the willpower to get it passed?
I think so. I think one of the major points that kind of makes it a little bit tricky is that while the Safe Banking Act does enjoy bipartisan support in the Senate and has, I believe at last count, something like 32 or 33 co-sponsors, there's much more appetite among Senate leadership for more comprehensive descheduling reform, particularly from Majority Leader Schumer. He has expressed support for this bill, but has also said that he wants to bring this at roughly the same time as his more comprehensive reform bill. Whether or not that's actually feasible depends a lot on politics and other issues that might be going on that aren't cannabis related. But I think that at the very least, the support exists for us to start having markups and hearings on the Safe Banking Act to get this bill moving and get the process going for consideration for an eventual floor vote, hopefully this year. And I think that even the most diehard Democratic supporters who are really only interested in comprehensive reform will eventually see that this is a step in the right direction that does have positive implications for small businesses as well as for general fairness in the industry. I mean, it's clearly not as far as we need to go. There's a lot of work to be done. But if it looks as if comprehensive reform is going to be impossible to get across the threshold this year, then I really foresee a lot of support getting behind the Safe Banking Act for passage this year.
Morgan, we're going to I'm sorry. We're going to accomplish this financial reform without changing Schedule 1 status of cannabis. There are a lot of other reforms that Schumer talked about that could potentially take place without changing the schedule. Is this just one of a whole package of bills that we're likely to see covering different subjects emerging from the legislature this year?
Well, the subjects that I really see the Senate or really Congress in general dealing with, aside from banking, are other incremental things like research and access for veterans. There hasn't really been too much discussion about standalone 280E reform, and hopefully we'll see the reintroduction of bills that would allow cannabis businesses, particularly those owned by women and people of color, to be able to access the Small Business Administration programs that support small businesses in other fields. There are obviously a lot of things that a larger comprehensive descheduling bill are going to cover that we're probably not going to see in piecemeal or incremental legislation. And that's why we need to keep working until we get those comprehensive bills passed, because those are going to address a lot of things like expungement and providing funding for community reinvestment and other forms of restorative justice that are probably not going to be dealt with on a standalone basis individually, and will have to be part of a much larger bill. We're also going to have to see regulatory structure and taxation being dealt with in comprehensive legislation as well. But regardless, getting safe banking, I think, is going to go a long way towards helping out a lot of businesses in this area and helping reduce the costs associated with not having bank accounts or other financial services, allow access to traditional lending, increase public safety, as well as transparency. So it's clearly a step in the right direction, and one that I think will actually help us get either incremental or comprehensive legislation passed in the future. I've always said that every single time lawmakers are able to pass a cannabis-related bill, it makes it that much easier for them to pass the next one and vote yes on larger and broader bills.
Debra, as someone who keeps an eye on the stock market and the cannabis stocks in particular, I'm going out on a limb thinking it might be a good day, a rally for them tomorrow, you think?
I would expect so. We've seen that pattern in the past. I think also when you've got kind of the media focus on 420, that doesn't hurt either. The numbers have been strong from just about every angle, whether it's states reporting their numbers or just the types of sales figures that we're seeing. Akerna thought that we were going to start out the 420 weekend doing 85 million a day and ultimately finishing up the holiday with 370 million in sales. And that's a pretty huge number. So I think that I would expect that we'll probably see a pretty decent day tomorrow.
And it is a celebration of all things cannabis, April 20th or 420 after the hour. And I think everyone on this call knows the origin of 420. So I'm not gonna go back and talk a little about San Rafael High School and the Waldos. I think we all know how it all started. But Morgan, I want to get back to you. Chuck Schumer he's a smart guy. He knows that tomorrow's 420. Is he going to take advantage of this in any way?
We're not hearing anything like that so far. I was actually a little bit surprised to see this bill introduced or called for a vote this week. But times are changing. I remember when I first started out in this field, 420 was always the slowest day for policy, as everybody was focused on culture stories. Half the time I could take the day off and it wouldn't be a problem. But that's starting to change as the culture becomes more mainstream and more accepted, as the stigma around it starts to dissipate, and as lawmakers become less afraid of that association.
Hey, Rick, why don't you enlighten us a little bit about your dinner last night? Because if there's one thing that has happened besides now 18 states moving towards legalization, we're starting to see prisoners who've been in jail for a long time for cannabis possession, nonviolent crimes getting released. And you hung out with a pretty famous one.
Well, we were very fortunate here in Michigan that we had the help of the Last Prisoner Project, as well as some in-state groups, in order to help secure the freedom of Michael Thompson. He'd been available for parole for some time, but had been meeting some difficulty. We spoke to the Attorney General, who wrote a letter of recommendation to the governor, and that really helped get things going. He was released in January, and since then, he's had a fantastic landing. He has his own house, he has his own vehicle, he's got a great job at a cannabis facility, which is a privilege not always extended to people who've just been released from incarceration. But he celebrated his 70th yesterday, and I was fortunate enough to be there with Mary Price from the Last Prisoner Project and Gracie, who's a brand new in-state worker with them, and about 100 people, mostly family, but a dozen kids running around laughing and giggling and making it a fun event. But really, to see a man who never envisioned being able to hold his grandchildren ever, or to eat birthday cake again, or to wear fancy clothes and a very nice hat Steve D'Angelo gave him. To see a man being able to embrace those type of privileges that we take for granted, it's pretty amazing. And then today, I was invited to his home to enjoy a smaller gathering with his family and a few other friends. And he revealed to me that the Genesee County Sheriff here in Flint, Michigan, where I live and where he lives, Genesee County is our county, and the sheriff is going to allow him to go through the county jail to do a tour and then also speak to some of the prisoners that are inside the jail to show them a message of hope, but also a message of how to conduct themselves while inside and how to take advantage of some of the opportunities that they have for education and for rehabilitation, and to be an inspiration to people who maybe don't have a light in their particular dark place.
What a great
Really
story.
special.
And when you hear stories like that, Morgan, it certainly makes your job a little easier when you go in, because all Rick is really describing is freedom. And, you know, a lot of us do take that for granted, but not if you've been behind bars and not for as long as Michael Thompson did. And think of how those feelings are just emanating through his body and the emotions. You know, how do you vote against it? You know, Morgan, go ahead.
I mean, that's why it's so important that along with legalization is that we make every effort to make whole the people and the communities that have been damaged and devastated by prohibition. And whether that's through expungement and early release, or helping to repair the economic and opportunity damage that has been done to communities all over the country. You know, this isn't something that we can just say like, all right, everything is fine now as soon as people are no longer being punished for it. We really have to look at this retroactively. And that's why I'm really looking forward to seeing the draft legislation coming from Schumer's office, as well as Senators Booker and Wyden, to see the extent of the social and restorative justice aspects that are included in that bill. But we also have to remember that the vast majority of these issues took place under state law and at the state level. So there's only really so much that the federal government can do in terms of making whole the people that have been harmed by prohibition. But there are some things that they can do beyond just the federal level in terms of federal expungement, you know, providing pipelines for funding for helping states promote their own expungement programs and things of that nature. So we're very interested in seeing what that legislation looks like and working with those offices to try to improve upon it as the months go by.
Debra, when you hear about the social justice reform that's part of this bill that's driving this, you've been covering the cannabis beat for a number of years. Did you think we'd get here this fast?
Well, it's actually been happening at some other levels as well. So I think a lot has changed as a result of the George Floyd incident. We've seen a lot of the corporate cannabis companies institute some social equity programs, some of them a little more performative than actually doing something. But at least they've started to make that process. You know, we are seeing, you know, look at New York State with its new law that it just passed, that 40% of the tax revenues are going to go into a social equity fund that is going to help people get licenses and various other things within that program. So we are starting to see some of the states come back and put in social equity programs if they didn't already have them, and the newer states have them. And we are seeing the corporate cannabis world starting to try to make some efforts. Again, some of them a little more performative than actual, but definitely seeing that change. And I think that really, and I don't know, Morgan may agree or disagree, but I think if we see it more at that grassroots level versus the top federal level, I think we'll maybe see change a little faster than if the government's saying, okay, you need to do this. But I think that because we're starting to put pressure on the companies to do it, that we are starting to see changes. Look, I've interviewed CEOs and asked them point blank, why is everyone on the board just a white guy? And put them on the spot, you know. And I think that that's what it's going to take, is more of those uncomfortable moments where you're questioning people. You say you're committed to social diversity, but you're not really doing it. And so I think that by, you know, me and my colleagues and other journalists, if we start to hold their feet to the fire, then we'll really start to force some change.
I think you're absolutely right. You know, most of these changes are going to take place at the state level, but even when states implement relatively good programs, we've seen that there are shortcomings in pretty much all of them. So it's going to be a pretty serious learning curve, and realizing where being able to be nimble enough at both the state and local level to fix problems and make sure that the results match up with the intent. But it also takes a cultural shift, and you're absolutely right. It requires companies being held accountable for their actions and making sure that their efforts in this area are substantive and not merely performative.
Rick, how do you view that?
Well, what we're really talking about here, in my opinion, is the character of America. For decades and decades, the government of the United States of America sort of fell down and betrayed people by perpetuating the lie that cannabis was bad for you, it was unhealthy, it was going to destroy our society. And now our children, for the very first time, can look up and see government actually making changes, government adjusting itself the way that the Constitution said that it was supposed to do. And the Black Lives Matter people see that we are actually defunding police departments, and we are actually making some changes in policy. And now our children have examples to look to see that government actually does respond to the people. And what I'd hate to see is that at this point where we really are making such a big change in our nation, if we started to backslide and start let corporations take over and stop reflecting the will of the people. Our 50 states are 50 individual crucibles of democracy. And when you give them an opportunity to show you what they can do, they can come up with all different unique solutions to problems. And then they can problem share. And then each state can have a way to fix the things that are wrong with their individual program. And when we accomplish that, then we're ready to move federally. I'd like to see just the federal government get out of the way and let the states continue forward as they have been for the last, 15, 20 years.
Morgan, is that a good plan?
Well, I think that at the federal level, at this point, we can't just get out of the way. We have to work towards making sure that we can level the playing field. I mean, I'm generally a pretty free market guy, but the basis of free markets is healthy competition. And when entire swaths of the population are unable to compete because of decades of prohibition and being robbed of generational wealth and opportunities, you have to do, take action to level that playing field. So I think that that is going to require effort at the federal level. And then once the playing field is level, or at least some semblance of level, then we can start looking at, maybe drawing back some of the, the support that exists at the federal level. But, even with the help of federal legislation to try to rectify some of these wrongs, it's still going to be largely up to the states. And, even if we made cannabis legal tomorrow, it's still going to be illegal in a lot of states. There are still going to be plenty of legal states that don't have robust restorative justice or social equity programs. So this is going to be something that has to be worked on continuously over the next 10, 15, 20 years at every level of government, as well as in the private sector.
Socially responsible capitalism is a term I heard back in the 90s. It was a bank in Boston called the Wainwright Bank, actually, that introduced that term to me. And here it is, 30 years later, And cannabis has an opportunity, and some of the bigger MSOs all have an opportunity. Debra, you outlined at least they're forming and talking about doing the right thing by those who have been most impacted on the war on drugs. I still pinch myself and that we're talking openly about this, that we've got 18 states now that have legalized adult use, that the most recent polls that came out, 69% of Americans are now favoring legalization of this plant. I'll be honest with you guys, I didn't believe I'd ever see this day. You're going to tell me that the U.S. men's national soccer team is going to win a World Cup next. That's the only thing that's left in my book, you know? Sorry, I had to throw that in. But we are definitely, I pinch myself that cannabis is a political issue, that cannabis has become a race issue that we can talk about, that law enforcement is perhaps starting to recognize that they have an issue amongst themselves, and that our prison system is a mess. And here is cannabis right in the middle of it all. I'm just blown away that the world is evolving around this plant at this point. All these major social changes are coming, and our children, as you guys are talking about, 20, 30 years, they're going to grow up with cannabis as part of their lives, like we grew up as beer and liquor as part of our lives. And I'm just amazed to see the whole thing. Debra, I want to make sure I go around the room here and let you guys have an opportunity to talk a little bit about what you're up to, and how long you've been doing this, and what the Green Market Report is all about. I want to give you an opportunity to talk a little bit about that, and also talk a little bit about the fact that we're now putting together a professional news video show that's about a 30-minute show every week. The whole thing blows my mind.
Thanks, Jimmy. I worked on Wall Street for many years, and I left and got my master's degree at New York University. And from there, I went to work at TheStreet.com with Jim Cramer, and I was there for about 8 years with Jim. And during that time, I did start covering cannabis, but really in the early days of the dodgy pot stocks, as we like to call them. And those were companies that would just put the word cannabis or marijuana in their name, and they had nothing to do with cannabis or marijuana. And the stocks were going up 1,000%, and it was crazy. But they were sketchy, but it was great. It was like catnip for a journalist, because it was sketchy people and crappy companies and poor, small retail investors getting ripped off. And that's when I started covering it. But, back then, 2013, mainstream journalists just did not do that. And a lot of people questioned, whether I was ruining my career by choosing to cover cannabis. And honestly, even at The Street, I couldn't cover cannabis until all my other work got done. I did it at the end of the day. So I fast forward, I left and was freelancing. And even after freelancing for a couple of years, I still wasn't pleased with what I saw. I was working with Seeking Alpha and Forbes, and even Forbes just still wanted me to cover it from a 30,000 level, approach, the 10 best edibles, or edibles are the hottest things, on the market, when they had been out for years. And so that's why I started Green Market Report, because I really wanted to cover cannabis the way any other industry would have been covered, and covered with respect and sincerity and seriousness. And also, like I said, holding those CEOs' feet to the fire. I wasn't just going to be pushing out press releases from these companies and just repeating what they wanted me to say. I was going to dig a little harder and look a little closer at their numbers. So certainly COVID hurt us with the loss of in-person events. That was a big part of our company. I'm hoping that we'll hopefully get back to that in the fall. It does seem like, as the vaccinations are going around, the restrictions are dropping faster and faster. The problem, though, is the venues. The venues aren't really ready yet for us to come back. And I'm in New York, so that's really what I'm speaking of. So we'll see. We've been hosting a series of virtual events. We're real pleased with the website. Our page views have gone up. Our newsletter subscriber base has gone up. So we've held in. We're in our 4th year. It's been tough, I won't lie, but we feel like we have maybe outlasted others. I'm excited tomorrow for 420. I'll be doing a presentation with the Brooklyn's Cannabis Collective, and they're a group out of Brooklyn, obviously with the name, but unfortunately not doing it in Brooklyn, doing it virtually. But a great group of people who have been investing in cannabis, and so I'm looking forward to doing that tomorrow evening. Maybe next year in New York we'll get to have a real 420 party, but this year we can just talk about it.
Right, and we've come a long way in a year that we're actually celebrating it socially distanced at this point and all that. Rick, tell me a little bit about what you're up to. I certainly know you've got a regular show. You've got a great following in Michigan. I had no idea that for 50 years that there was a party called the Hash Bash. You've enlightened me to that. We've been carrying it all week. Tell us a little bit about yourself and what's going on in Michigan.
I'd love to do that, but Morgan, do you have time? I know you needed to duck out.
He can duck out.
Go ahead. I'll just disappear when I need to.
We have another group coming in at 8:30. My nurses group are coming in. So Rick, you get to do the last minute or two, and then we'll say goodbye to Morgan, and I'll get rid of everybody, and I'll open up the everybody's on hold. It's great. I'm getting my text. I'm in the room. So whenever you go ahead, Rick.
Sure. Of course, I've been doing this for about a dozen years or so. Started off publishing a magazine in Michigan, the Michigan Medical Marijuana Magazine, and started with a distribution company. We ended up with a chain of 5 dispensaries across the state before law enforcement decided that was a bad idea for us to do that. And I've done a bunch of journalism since then, and I consider myself an opinionist. But most recently, I'm a podcaster, and we have the Jazz Cabbage Cafe, which we broadcast every Tuesday, tomorrow being 420. We're doing a remote broadcast from inside a dispensary here in the state of Michigan in Ann Arbor, Apothecare, which has an organic growing system. But importantly, we're also going to get a remote broadcast from a very special fishing tournament taking place in Florida tomorrow. It's the 420 Cannabis POWs fishing tournament featuring some of the greatest smugglers of all time, Bobby Platshorn and Adam Brook from up here, and Richard DeLisi and some of the other folks that have really spent a lot of time in jail for cannabis crimes have been recently released. It's a nice way for folks to get back and give back. Stacey Theus down there with the Cannabis is doing it, and I think Select is also helping them as well. So that'll be exciting.
And Morgan, how are you going to celebrate 420 tomorrow? You're going to go to work.
Oh yeah, always. Maybe I'll get a little bit of time off during the late afternoon, early evening, or something like that. But no, it's going to be nose to the grindstone for us.
Well, we appreciate the work that the NCIA and all the lobbyists in Washington are doing. We're all part of history, and we're all documenting it, and we're journalists, and we like to talk about it. We're talk show hosts, and we're part of a very amazing movement that is touching a lot of our society. And I'm very proud that we were able to start this thing. And I have no idea how big it's going to get, but I really appreciate the efforts of everyone in this Zoom room because I need you. You've been in the trenches. I'm late to the game, but man, I'm catching up fast. Okay. Because we're streaming 24/7. We're not looking back. I can tell you that. And we'll just keep it going until I can fill 7 days a week of cannabis information, education, and news. So Debra, Rick, great to see you. We'll see you on We Talk News. Morgan, we'll see you the 3rd Friday of every month. And we're going to take a quick break, and then we're going to fill it up with the nurses of America. Don't go away.
We are Pro Cannabis Media.
Well, hello there. Here we are again, another live stream from the new studio of Pro Cannabis Media. This is Cannabis Chat, and I'm Jimmy Young. Hi, everyone. Welcome to We Talk News. I'm Jimmy Young, the founder of Pro Cannabis Media.
And I'm Kurt Dalton, the founder of Cannabis.net.
Every week, Kurt and I get together to review some of the biggest stories in the cannabis industry. He and I talk about them. We have a few comments, and then we get reports from Canada, New York, and Washington, D.C.
And this week's no different, Jimmy. We finally have Vermont moving toward recreational cannabis with retail opening in their state. We have an old state and a new state, Colorado and Illinois, both setting cannabis sales records in July, as well as multiple efforts to legalize the cannabis plant in America, including our friend Steve D'Angelo getting involved.
But first, let's go to Debra Borchardt in New York to check on the financial weed scene. Deborah?
Thanks, Kurt. Thanks, Jimmy. Well, things seem to keep going the wrong way for Charlotte's Web.
Whoa, Jimmy Young in the weeds on the water this week. We've got the CEO of Kushko, Nick Kovacevic, with me. This guy has built his little company in 6 years from $2 million in sales to $145 million in sales.
We can get this thing to be fully legal here in the next few years, I believe, but it's going to take far longer for the stigma to change.
I think you guys are the pro cannabis story.
And I love Pro Cannabis Media.
Hi, I'm Jody Roberts with Eastern Security State, and I love Pro Cannabis Media.
Hi, I'm Laura Beener. I'm the president co-founder of The Healing Rose, and I love Pro Cannabis Media. It's been such an integral part of our success here at The Healing Rose.
And you know what? The best media company out there is Pro Cannabis Media. Look out for them. They'll make you famous.
Hi, I'm George, and I love Pro Cannabis Media. I also love Western Mass Hydroponics, where we've got everything you need from seed to bloom to bud, and then to smoke it afterwards.
Hi, I'm Ben Shower, New England rep for Salient Video Management Systems. Let me tell you what makes us different in the security space. We're your trusted advisors for all your security needs. I know how complicated the regulations are in cannabis, and working with Salient Systems will be the polar opposite of that. I give free consultations and will walk you through every step of the process so that you can get what you need at the price you can afford. We're robust, we're simple and scalable. We're Salient Systems, your solutions to all your security needs. Please contact me at the information below, and I'm looking forward to
I really enjoy what I do. There's a couple different reasons for it. First of all, I've always been an accountant, and it's kind of a nerdy thing to say, but I do love accounting. And I also love helping companies. I love helping people build their companies, especially small to mid-sized startups. I've always been someone that's, in all my roles in industry, it's always been building teams, building companies, building departments. And to be honest, I love working for myself and owning my own company. So I love what I do every day.
PCM TV is supported by Salient Systems, a world leader in video management security, and by Revolutionary Clinics, a medical dispensary where the patient comes first, and by Accounting Buds, your #1 CPA specialist for the cannabis industry.
All right. Wow. That was a great first 30 minutes. And now we're going to have another great 30 minutes because I'm surrounded by nurses. Unbelievable. This is like a dream for somebody like me who really gets a lot of aches and pains, and people call me the Altacocker in the area. You know what I'm saying? Anyway, hi everybody. Welcome back to a very special primetime edition of Weed time in prime time. I don't have any idea. I just made that up as I go along. I'm Jimmy Young from Pro Cannabis Media. We're so happy to be joined by some friends and contributors to our new network, PCM TV, the Green Nurse Group, and the Vermont Green Nurse herself, Jessilyn Dolan. Thank you all for joining us. Good to see you all. And first of all, let me start right along with Nurse Mark and with Sherri. Tell us a little bit about what you guys do, not once in a while, but like every day. You're live every day, right?
Sherri is so good at explaining what we do, Jimmy. I'm just following along. Like I'm following a lead. I'll follow Jessilyn. I'll follow Sherri. You know, these guys got it. So go ahead, Sherri. What are we doing these days?
What are you doing, Sherri?
Well, what we're doing these days is we're tapping into spiritual principles. So Nurse Mark and the Daily Dose of AFA, absolutely fucking amazing, living a life you love. Nurse Mark wrote a book.
There it is.
Did.
So every morning we talk a little bit about the book. We have daily love. So Mark has an amazing leads from the daily love. We talk about that. And then we talk about the endocannabinoid system, and we bring on a lot of health awareness topics. So every month they have a lot of health awareness topics. And so what we do is we talk about those and then bring in endocannabinoid system education. The other thing that we're doing too is because we're really, really passionate about this is we've been nurses for a long time. We've never learned about the endocannabinoid system. The National Council State Boards of Nursing came up with a call to action that all nurses must have 6 essential areas of knowledge when it comes to cannabis. And that's not just all nurses, that's nursing students and advanced practice nurses. So we take that very, very seriously. And this plant, you know, has changed and saved our lives and many of the patients that we work with. So we feel it very compelled to educate that across the platform. So hopefully other health practitioners will hear the message and follow suit and start to learn about this magnificent plant.
Yes.
Absolutely. Nurse, Nurse Mark, you want to echo that?
You know, that's why I always ask Sherri to explain, because she's so articulate. She just gets right to the meat of the matter. And you know what? I feel like, you know, and I don't want to date myself here, but I feel like I'm Ed McMahon, right? She's Johnny Carson. I'm Ed McMahon. I just come in for a little comic relief now and again. And then, you know,
do you think our audience knows who Ed McMahon is? Okay, come on. I know.
Yeah. Well, a lot of people who are listening don't know, really, seriously.
That's right.
They were a very famous pair of people who did some really funny stuff on TV.
Yeah.
Right. And it's on channel 212 on my LG smart TV.
Love it.
I watch reruns of Johnny Carson and I still laugh. It's
oh my gosh. I know, it's great content. Anyway, Jimmy, we're doing great stuff. We're doing our daily show 5 days a week, and we're doing a regular podcast where we have folks on. Jessilyn was on. We have people on, and that's we do on Wednesday nights at 8 p.m.
Yep. We're illuminating. Yeah, we're trying to illuminate health professionals. Nurses are really the game changers in the space.
Oh, hell
yeah. We believe that we add value we bring credibility to any company that works for us. And we really care. You know, nurses are the most trusted profession for 18 years in a row. 19
now?
There you go. I love that.
Elevate and highlight and illuminate the health professionals that are really stepping outside the box or eliminating the box that says they must step outside the box and bringing plant medicine and other progressive therapies to the forefront. Because the future of healthcare is patient empowerment. Truly, that's what it is. And so that's what we're trying to do here as cannabis nurses, is to really educate and empower patients to make decisions that are best for them. And I think that we're doing a pretty good job, don't you?
You're doing a great job. And when you talk about game changers, that's our green nurse from Vermont, Jessilyn Dolan.
I know.
Yes.
She is a game changer in her state.
Ass in Vermont.
That's right. Jessilyn, what's going on up in the Green Mountain State? Anything positive going on up there as far as pro cannabis goes?
Well, I would say one big positive is I've started a legislative kind of campaign action request and asked Vermonters to reach out to their legislators and to a specific bill sponsor. It's called S25 that is the big Vermont bill happening right now in legislative session. And I've had over 500 people send emails to their legislative reps, which for a state of only 600,000 people, that is a lot. So we are definitely being heard. I was published in the newspaper this week specifically talking about no one in the state of Vermont is being that voice or advocating specifically for medical patients. Vermont right now is transitioning. We're about to have our rules and regulations for our tax and regulate market, which should open next year if there aren't delays. And with that, the medical program is kind of being left behind and patients are not being prioritized. So a lot of the work I do on a daily basis is the legislative work and reaching out to representatives. I'm going to testify this week. We have a nurse legislative day, actually all day Friday at the State House, where we'll get to talk to the governor and the lieutenant governor and really just make a lot of noise to make some of those changes absolutely happen here. And I think we are in a positive direction and may get some of those changes that we're asking for.
Well, we hope you do. You articulate your passion beautifully. The patients versus profits debate, guys, that we all watch evolve in the cannabis industry on a regular basis. You know, for the most part, a lot of states welcomed in the medical program first, and now they've moved on to adult use. Again, are your voices being heard? I guess is the question. Do you feel they are, Jessilyn?
You know, I'm starting to feel they are, but I've had to spend a lot of time making noise, reaching out to the wrong person and then the right person and roundabout making my way in the direction that we need to. But I do feel like we're starting to get newspaper coverage. We are going to be allowed to testify. And actually, the Vermont Cannabis Nurse Association, which I've started, is going to be named in the bill to see if the Vermont cannabis nurses moving forward will be written into law to be the advocates on the advocacy panel for the Cannabis Control Board. So if we get that, that will be huge.
Yeah, I know you want representation on that board. That's very important to you. And we certainly hope so. Sherri and Mark, you know, how do we balance that patients versus profits philosophy that's part of this business, and how impactful do you think, are you able to do anything politically, or are you guys strictly want to take care of the people that I send you who need help?
Jimmy, that's such a good question.
It is a good question.
Yeah, it's a good question. Now, here's the reality of the situation. We live in a healthcare for profit model. Healthcare for profit. That's just the way it is. Whether you're talking about cannabis or Western medicine, it's a for-profit model. So yeah, it's a balancing act, figuring out how to deliver quality care, and in this case, the amazing, results that cannabis can have as a medicine, and still allow people to turn a profit. So, yeah, it's a balancing act, I think.
And I think too, one of the things that we see that we're able to really help patients with is now, Massachusetts, you're allowed to grow. So it's,
thank goodness.
Yeah, it's a medical state and an adult use state. And so the laws are that patients can grow. We can also have caregivers. So, to make it affordable, what we're doing is we're really introducing, teaching patients and encouraging them to cultivate on their own and to work with growers and private caregivers, so they can learn how to make their own medicine, so it can be more affordable.
One thing I'd love to see happen, guys, and you've heard these stories, so this is not going to become news to you. For a lot of people, cannabis has become the last resort for treatment. Are we starting to see it as a first resort or as an immediate supplement to more traditional treatment, whether that's cancer or what have you? Jessilyn's already nodding, and then we'll come back to the green nurses below. Go ahead, Jessilyn.
Well, that's actually one of the things we are writing into this bill that we're working on, and we should find out within a week if we can include substance use and opioid use disorder as a qualifying condition, and pushing to allow anyone, as soon as they are prescribed an opioid, they are also given a medical marijuana card like some other states have done. So that's exactly what we're looking for, is a first line treatment rather than that last resort.
That's great. What do you think, Sherri? Is that
I think everything should be on the table for patients. You know what I mean? There's, patients who says, does this work? Does this work? Does that work? Everything works and nothing works. We have to figure out what works for a patient, and patients should have the ability to choose whatever method they would like. It should never be last resort. I think it should be on the table with everything else. I'm a firm believer of using cannabis to bridge the gap from what you're not getting from traditional medicine. And then, if patients so choose to just use that as their primary choice, they should have that ability as well. I think it's patient's preference, and it should be honored.
And that comes with a ton of education, right? Which I know the green nurses are all about. I'm working with the whole state of Vermont. Without that education, people don't understand that's an option or why that might be a better option. Well, something we're doing in Vermont, I'm really excited. We're going to announce it tomorrow, but I'll announce it here tonight. The entire state of Vermont is launching a nurse education program where every nurse in the state of Vermont will have the option and be offered to take cannabis education. And the idea is, we know nurses are leading this movement, and nurses are the ones that meet patients where they're at and are open to alternative and other therapies. So our hope is by reaching out and educating as many nurses as we can at a state level, that's where we're going to start to see the change. Nurses will be the change agent, but nurses can't do that if they don't have the education.
Right.
And you're starting to see education coming into more traditional nursing programs at schools and that sort of thing. Sherri, yes?
Well, I actually, this is amazing. This is what part of my story of coming out of the closet. In 2018, I was asked to speak at the graduating nurse practitioner class at Boston College. I graduated from Boston College. And so it was really interesting. In 1988, I got in trouble for smoking a J behind the bushes. And then in 2018, here I am standing in Cushing Hall at Boston College teaching, as a bachelor's in science and nursing. I don't have my master's. I don't have my PhD. I'm not a nurse practitioner, but they asked me to teach. That's how much people wanted to know that knowledge, and how there was not enough people out there to teach, that they allowed us to go in and we taught a 3-hour class, which was really, really, really powerful, really fun.
And how about you, Nurse Mark?
Okay, Jimmy, what's the question again? I was just listening to her wonderful answer. I mean, you got me off track, bro.
Any experience going into classrooms, or are we going to see it become more mainstream?
Yeah, we're going to see it absolutely entering the mainstream curriculum, but it's not there yet. No. So what I'm seeing is that they're requesting 1-hour vignettes, 1 hour, come in and talk about the endocannabinoid system. Yeah, let's talk about something that, major researchers have been researching for the last 20 years in an hour. Yeah, I can tell you all about it. No, see, they're still not there. And I don't know if it's just a hesitancy to kind of add it into the curriculum with the federal illegality, still there. I'm going to assume that it's probably that, but, getting a lot more requests for these small little moments of teaching, which is, God will take it, it's a start.
Absolutely. And there is so much to learn. You're all in the medical profession. Mark, you brought up a great point about it's a profit, healthcare in America is a profitable business. In fact, watch the Today Show sometime and try and find a commercial that's not for a drug. Okay. It's pretty amazing to me how much money is spent in advertising by the drug companies. How fearful are we of the drug companies taking over or impacting it? Jessilyn, we'll start with you because you're nodding your head. Go ahead.
Well, that's something we're lobbying against here in Vermont, is how to not let corporate money and corporate cannabis take over. We're an agricultural state, so we're really pushing to have a cannabis program that favors small cultivators, small farmers, patients, and things like that. So yes, it is a big concern. We are seeing it out west. We're seeing it. I know we're seeing it in Massachusetts. We're seeing it in states that are unfortunately being taken over by corporate money. We're going to see big pharma come in. We're seeing, big beer companies come in and tobacco companies come in. And that's what we're hoping to keep, I want to see it kept in the hands of the small cultivators and farmers. But Jimmy, like you said, we're in a for-profit industry. I'm also trying to consider balancing that. So to make medicine affordable, you do need to have an integrated process and system. With that, you need a lot of money. So how do we do it right? I haven't found any state that I think have done it incredibly right yet. So I'm really hoping Vermont can turn it around and be a leader and showcase how we can do it with small farmers.
Yeah, we talked about that in the last section with Debra Borchardt. You know, she talks to CEOs, the big MSOs, all the time, and she's encouraged that they at least recognize that they have to do something that might be more socially responsible than just making profits for their investors and their board members. And again, as more and more people like yourselves and the journalists like Debra and Morgan out of DC and Rick Thompson out of Michigan, that message has to reach the MSOs. When we have an opportunity to talk to the boards of these big multi-state operators that come into various states, you know, they've got plenty of money, and I understand that the legislators want that tax money fast, so they want to make those MSOs. You want to get it going, but once it gets going, there has to be a percentage of profits put aside to help those who have been most impacted on the war on drugs. And, you know, maybe we're going to see that now. What do you guys think about that?
We're pushing for that in Vermont. We have a couple bills in specific to that, and that's also part of S25, is bringing some social equity and bringing more land options to BIPOC farmers here in Vermont. So that, I think, cannot be overlooked. Like when I talk to people, whether I'm chatting about politics or educating about the endocannabinoid system, we cannot talk about cannabis, period, without talking about the racial disparities and, you know, exactly as you said, what we have seen through the drug war and how we need to use the cannabis industry to help support those most negatively affected.
Yeah, and I don't know if you listened to Rick Thompson tell the story of Michael Thompson up there in Michigan, who was the longest incarcerated cannabis criminal. I hate that word. Now out and rehabbed and working in the industry. And what a great example. The guy's 70 years old. He got to hold his grandchild for the first time. I mean, those are the stories that have to be told. Have you seen any of those stories in mainstream media at all, ever? Guys, you're all shaking our heads, right? Crazy to me. I get so pissed about that. I really do, because I know some of these people. And, you know, I give the Boston Globe some credit here because they have a full-time cannabis reporting staff led by Dan Adams. And I give him credit for doing as best as he can. But I still haven't seen any of these stories on any of the major network affiliates in Boston on a regular basis. There's certainly no cannabis beat reporter out there. And, you know, they weren't interested in me a couple of years ago, and they certainly don't want me now. I can tell you that.
The Last Prisoner
we want you, Jimmy.
does a great job. And if anyone ever wants to reach out to the Last Prisoner Project, they have a letter writing campaign where you can at least reach out and be kind of a beacon of light to somebody that is incarcerated. My Sherri, as you mentioned, coming out of the closet, which is a big thing for medical professionals. It was a big thing for me, for my partner as well. He's a felon for cultivating cannabis. And it has unfortunately affected his life to the point of, can I be a soccer coach for my kid? I can't go to Canada with my daughter for her school trip, you know, so we are living proof of it working, because now we're going to turn around and felons for cannabis cultivation without violent crimes, like my partner, will actually be one of the first in line in Vermont to get a cultivation license, so they say. So I am excited to say that Vermont is taking that into account and are trying to prioritize minorities and those who have been affected from the drug war.
That is great. That is very, very good news. Guys, tell us about the Green Nurse, what's coming up on the Green Nurse group shows that we are airing on our PCM TV. I know that at some point, guys, I know you do it live every morning. One of these days we'll start picking up on that, but we'll probably have to expand our staff, and you know what that means. So let's just be, tell them where they can find you, where people can find you, and what's coming up in your world.
Nurse Mark?
Oh my gosh. So you can find us at www.thegreennurse.com. And we have a Facebook page, of course, and we're on Instagram at OG Green Nurse, and Twitter and nursemark.co.
Yep.
Absolutely. We're there. We're hard to miss, Jimmy.
I know that. That's why you're here with me. I love that.
Yeah.
Sherri, what any special guests coming up on your shows?
Well, let's see. We have our Monday through Friday, 8 a.m. This Wednesday night, we're talking to Dawn Marie Steenstra. She's part of the cannabis space. She has a great story overcoming breast cancer using cannabis, and she's doing a lot of great things in Maryland. So we're going to be interviewing her. And then tomorrow, actually afternoon, Nurse Mark and I are taking part of the 420 potluck giveaway at In the Weeds Prohibition Talk Radio, where we have Jessilyn Dolan actually is giving away her do-it-your-own salve. From
Maybe
Nurse
I'll win.
That's right.
Maybe I'll win. I'm feeling lucky.
Yep.
That's the other In the Weeds program. Please send my regards to them. Okay. We're all in this together.
We're all in this together. Yeah. So, yeah.
That's right. That's right. We're all in the weeds together, basically.
Exactly.
And Jessilyn, next step for you, State House and look out, right?
Yeah, well, tomorrow we're launching our statewide cannabis nurse education program, and we have a couple live panels with that happening in May. On Friday, we have our statewide nurse legislative day overall, and I am allowed to talk about and lobby for cannabis, which is fantastic. And then tomorrow for 420, I'll be at Magic Man, which is in Essex, Vermont, which is Vermont's first CBD cafe. And I will be giving away some of my homegrown cannabis, as well as some other gifts. And just hanging there for the day with some other folks.
Terrific. And Sherri and I will be live on the PCM network at Rev Clinics on Fawcett Street in Fresh Pond. So if you are in the greater Cambridge area, you want to come down. And if you mention the words In the Weeds, you're going to win a PCM t-shirt. So there you go. Come on down and check us out. We'll be there at 11 o'clock live. So enjoy that. So Sherri, Nurse Mark, Jessilyn, thank you so much for adding to our Weed Talk News program every week. So appreciate that. And we'll keep it going here. We've got another group coming in just a few minutes. So don't go away as prime time weed time continues after this. Hey. That's it. Come on, stay. That's it. Hey. Oh. Hey, Jimmy Young, in the weeds, with the trees in the way. How's that? Oh, gee. I bet you could tell what the C stands for. Check it out on In the Weeds with Jimmy Young this week. Oh, that's better. That's even better. Okay. Hey, Jimmy Young, in the weeds, in the trees this week, and one's still in my way. Hey, there you go. Great guest on In the Weeds this week, Dr. David Kunick. He's a doctor of physical therapy, and he runs a company called UCS Advisors. Why am I carrying all this physical therapy equipment, and why are the trees still bothering me? Because I can't stand doing a promo with all this stuff around me. No, seriously. Let's try this again. Hey, Jimmy Young, in the weeds, in the trees this week. Why am I carrying all my physical therapy equipment, all my TheraBands and stuff? Because I'm talking to a doctor from physical therapy, actually a doctor of physical therapy. So I got to redo this again. Hey, Jimmy Young, in the weeds, in the trees this week. I've got a great guest, a Dr. David Kunick of physical therapy. It's why I'm carrying all this physical therapy. Just with me. Because I'm talking to a doctor of physical therapy. His name is Dr. David Kunick. He's from New Jersey, and he runs a company called UCS Advisor. I bet you could tell what the C stands for.
Check it out on In the Weeds this week with Jimmy Young.
Hi, Jimmy Young here, and I have to ask you, are you secure? If you're in the cannabis industry, you have to have security for your grow facility or dispensary. And we are so happy to welcome Salient Systems to our group of supporters. You get to call their rep. His name is Ben Shower at SalientSys.com. So don't even wait an hour. Call Ben Shower at 413-333-7974.
PCM TV is supported by Salient Systems, a world leader in video management security, and by Revolutionary Clinics, a medical dispensary where the patient comes first, and by Accounting Buds, your #1 CPA specialist for the cannabis industry.
So I personally like QuickBooks for MRBs. I wouldn't necessarily suggest QuickBooks for a plant touching company. And the reason for that is QuickBooks is still a little iffy when it comes to having a plant touching business or even anything related to the cannabis world as one of their customers. What I typically do when I use QuickBooks for an MRB is I don't necessarily put the title of the company as a title that's obvious that it's an MRB. I'll put the name of the LLC if it's not the same name as the company. I'll create a fake name, then just change the financial statements when I go to print them out, because I don't want QuickBooks to shut my customers down or shut my account down either. But it's still one of the best tools out there for a small business to use. And it's something that I use to run my business. It's something I use to run some of the clubs and societies that I work with. And it's also what I really direct my MRBs to utilize as well for their books and records.
Well, here we go again. Another half hour of Weed Time Prime Time live on the PCM TV network. I'm Jimmy Young from Pro Cannabis Media. We're so very happy to have another great group who has been a major part of our launch. And it is a pleasure to welcome in the Canna Boss lady, Jill. We've got Tara Misu from New Jersey, from Blazin Bakery. And we've got the Canna Cook channel dynamic duo of Chris and Chelsie Miles from Arkansas. Thank you all for joining us here tonight as we kind of get this 420 thing going, and I appreciate it. Appreciate you guys being here.
Yeah, thanks for having us, Jimmy.
All right, I want to start with the couple in the room, okay? Because they're the couple in the room, and there's some very special stuff going on with the Canna Cook channel. Guys, I haven't even shared with you, but I think I'm going to be able to share your work with this very special program that we've been hired to produce called the Stash Bash with the Revolutionary Clinics group that we work with on a regular basis. They've been looking for a cooking segment that is sharp. And I said, have I got a cooking segment for you, right?
Well, that's cool.
Awesome.
Very awesome.
Yeah. So, so I want to know, first of all, how you doing? Tell us about the Canna Cook channel and what you guys are up to. You were on a special show recently. I think I caught it with was it Elena Goldberg, maybe?
Yeah, that's right. We did a live one with Kenigma.com and Elena over there. And we did that. About 2, 3?
Yeah, it was
about
a couple
3
of
weeks
weeks ago. It was
Yeah.
a lot of fun.
Yeah,
Crazy,
it was.
but it was fun.
Yeah, we had a lot of fun with that. And so we've just been continuing to do our season 2, which will wrap up towards the end of summer this year.
August or September will be the end of season 2.
And then we'll take a few months off, have our baby that we are expecting, which September.
Yep, September baby.
Yep. And
what is the exact date in September? Just because I'm a September baby.
The 24th.
Okay, that's cool.
Yep.
Now, me and Jimmy, we share a birthday, don't we?
Yes, we do. We're both September 3rd, right?
That's right.
I'm hoping that he'll be born a little bit early, so it'll share a birthday with these 2 awesome guys.
There we go.
Love
There you go.
that.
Tell us about what you guys do on your cooking show.
Sure, certainly. Yeah. So Chelsie and I, we became both medical marijuana patients here in Arkansas, and we saw a really big void here of education, and the way the industry is here in Arkansas, it's very expensive for patients. And we really wanted to kind of take the risk off of patients and just show them what's the easiest ways to cook with cannabis.
Yeah.
So we started in 2019. We started cannacook.com. And since then, we've also launched like an app. You can get on our app and use the Canna calculator and things like that. And our YouTube channel and things like that. And
the main thing for us is when we first started, we both kind of thought that cooking with cannabis was going to be some weird, crazy chemistry experiment. But, we just want to let people know that you don't have to be a professional chef or professional cook. It's so much easier than what anybody could think. And you get so many good benefits from it.
Absolutely. We wanted people to save money really in the long run.
Absolutely.
And we really both see the benefits of using cannabis, orally and eating it. And rather, I do smoke it as well, but I really have enjoyed the world of edibles ever since we've gotten into it. It's been a whole new experience. And it's been amazing and a lot easier than I could have ever thought it would be.
So much easier.
You just have to start low and go slow, right?
That's right.
Now, tiramisu, as you might imagine, Blazin Bakery. Tara, tell us a little bit about what you're doing and how much you enjoy what you're doing as well. You've been in the New Jersey scene for quite a while.
11 years, which in cannabis we age in dog years, so that's a lot. I love it here. I have committed to staying in Jersey the whole time. So because of that, I got really involved in the legislation here. I got some great things passed, and I was a big part of the ballot that just got passed.
Thank you. Congratulations.
Thank you. Yeah, no, it's exciting. It's exciting to see everything finally coming together. So working in cannabis has just been an incredible journey. I don't know who I am. I invented the first brownie mix for herbal brownies 11 years ago. I found this loophole for people to make their own edibles. So I technically have the first edibles company in New Jersey. And since then, it's just been amazing to follow trends and around the country. And that's great. I always say the first year in 2014, when I went to Colorado, the first 420 in America, I celebrated it there. And I had this brownie mix. I thought this is going to be so cool. Weed's legal. And I realized I just brought sand to the beach because no one wanted a brownie mix. Now everyone's selling edibles. So it's funny. You never hear, Arkansas cannabis news. So my product actually still sells well in states that are really conservative because people still have, and eventually my brownie mix will be no more and I'll just be selling brownies all across America and other edibles. But yeah, it's interesting that these states that are still so repressed, where people are still trying to make their own edibles, still have, and then you go somewhere like California and it's just candy land everywhere. So it's been an interesting journey. So.
And the Canna Boss lady is also from New Jersey, Jill Cohen. She does regular webinars with the Emerald Media Group, and we're friends with the Emerald Media Group, and we like to share their educational webinars on our 24/7 stream on PCM TV as well. Jill, you also have your own CBD store. How has that been going?
Oh, it's been absolutely fantastic. It was a scary and risky journey to open a retail store in the middle of a pandemic. Everyone thought I was absolutely crazy, but actually it was the best decision that I ever made because, unfortunately, a lot of places were going out of business, so it opened up a lot of vacancies, and it gave me the opportunity to negotiate a really good rent and get a really good space and open up just in time. You know, I opened up February 13th, and it was just in time for when people were just ready to come out of the woodwork, you know, and just flock to the village. Maplewood's a village that in Essex County, it's very much the Soho of Essex County, very similar to Soho in New York City. It's a very villagey town, very walkable, and they close the streets down and like at 6 o'clock at night on the weekends and stuff. And it has just been warm and welcoming. The community's been so excited. And it's funny, you know, I've only been open for 2 months. I've already been selling out of stuff, and the reviews that I've been getting online have been like, we're so glad you're here. You're in walking distance. And you know, they love my products. My mission is I only support women-owned businesses, women-owned brands, and every purchase donates to a BIPOC women charity. And, you know, of course, I did all of the extensive research to find the best products in the market and make sure that they're third-party tested and CO2 extracted, and got my new line of Delta 8 in. And I'm actually working on formulating my own The Canna Boss Lady line. I'm working on an erotica gummy that helps women get multiple orgasms and helps their libido. And I'm also working on a shampoo and a conditioner to help thicken hair, grow hair, and less frizziness. And so there's a lot of great things that are coming out of this, and it's just been unbelievable. I'm very excited.
You know, you used the term Delta 8, and that is something that is being thrown out there now an awful lot in the discussions. We have Delta 9, Delta 8. Who wants to tackle the definition of what Delta 8 is?
You know it.
Tara?
Sure. So Delta 8, we have Delta 9 THC, and everyone, when they say THC, that's what they think. They're thinking of Delta 9. Now, the cannabis plant has they're thinking it's about 140 cannabinoids, but no one knows what the upward limit is. But so people know CBD, THC. THC has THCA, it has THC 8, 9, all these other things. 9, I would describe as, well, everyone knows you get high. CBD, completely therapeutic. Delta 8, right in the middle. It has some psychoactive properties, but it also has a lot of therapeutic properties. So it's more functional, but it's also, you know, gets you a little high.
If I can interject there, I've had a lot of customers come into my shop because they weren't sure if I was a dispensary. And so they came in looking for THC. And I was like, well, I have Delta 8. And they were like, oh, what's Delta 8? And I said, well, it's the psychoactive version of CBD, and it does get you high, but it's a different type of high. It's more of a body high. It's less of a high of the THC.
Right.
And it's more mellow. It doesn't give you the paranoia or the brain fog that you can get with a THC product. And the Delta 8 is just it's almost like taking a Percocet and just easing into this couch and relaxing, but it also makes you have a little giggles and happy feeling. And then when you come down off of it, you get the best sleep of your life. So I tell people start it at 420, and then it takes about 2 hours to hit you, because that's, for some reason, I mean, I know all edibles take a long time to hit you, but Delta 8 takes a little longer. And then you ride it, you go into it, and you feel good, you feel happy, you're giggly, you're still productive, you're still there, you're still focused. And then when you come down off it, you're just relaxed, and you go to sleep. And it's like, a lot of people have told me, a lot of my customers, repeat customers, have told me that they're giving up THC now because they prefer Delta 8.
That's interesting to me. And I got a box today. I'm pretty sure I know who sent me this box, and it had a CBD joint, right? A CBD joint. Yeah. I mean, guys, it was kind of new to me. Not quite sure what I'm going to do with it. Chelsea's laughing, because like what I mean. Okay, I take my CBD drops. Okay, I take my 4-to-1 Rev Clinics tincture every morning, but I just don't know about just the CBD thing. You're encouraging it, Jill. I hear. Try it. I like it.
I mean, it's, there's a big difference between full spectrum CBD and then Delta 8, because Delta 8's a psychoactive CBD, so it's basically Delta 8 CBD with the buzz. And I don't know if you guys heard of Cali Sober, but it's like the new trend now where people are giving up alcohol to less, have the calories or the hangover the next day, and they want to consume cannabis. But the medical marijuana cannabis is really strong for a lot of people, especially people that just want a little buzz. They don't want to go in for a huge ride, and so that's where Delta 8 has solved that problem and has really come in the middle to just really add that benefit of the CBD, all the benefits of the CBD with the buzz.
So let's go back to the Canna Cook couple out there in Arkansas, and get their kind of influence and opinions about all these different concoctions now. And we all recognize that there is an entourage effect, right? That the CBD needs a little THC more than what the federal government defines as hemp 0.3% in order to really be active. How do you accomplish that in your dishes, guys?
So one thing I wanted to talk about real quick was that Delta 8 here in Arkansas is actually banned. It's one of the 11 states that it's banned in. So
unfortunately,
yeah, of course it would be Arkansas.
Yep.
But
how far a drive is it from Arkansas to the Canna Boss's Lady Shop? That's what I want.
Far of a drive, isn't
right?
it?
Yeah.
Okay, all right.
12 hours.
No, and I wish I've read about the Delta 8. I've wanted to experiment with
Yeah,
it,
me
but
too.
with it being not available here, it's just one of those things where it's like, well, I guess hopefully one of these days we'll see it down the road.
Maybe if we get to travel to Colorado or state that has it, we'll get to try it.
We plan on doing some of that soon.
Yeah.
But
I think in your network you should be able to find someone who can ship you some.
Yeah.
I mean, I got a shipping package today. Honest to God, I think I know who sent it. I'm not gonna make sure that I get it right before I say it. But in the box was a piece of paper. It was a disclaimer. Okay, basically that this is CBD hemp-based products, not the THC-based product. I mean, it looked like a very official insert in this. So there are people out there sending this all over the country, guys, aren't there? I mean. Come on, Tara's
There are states that you're not allowed to send it to, though, and you would get it in a lot of trouble. And we do.
It's one of the reasons why I don't send it. Okay, I'll drive to get it if I had to, and that's why I encourage the drive from Arkansas to New Jersey. But my point again is, I was still a little apprehensive about opening this box and checking it all out, and it had CBD buds in it. Okay. Yeah. Right. I mean, you guys enlighten me a little. Tara, go ahead.
Yeah, they don't need, if you ship it via anything else, UPS, FedEx, they can check it because they're private companies. But you can't go through anything in the US mail without a warrant. So even if they see or smell a very small amount of cannabis, it's usually not worth it for them to check it anyway. But that's yes, legally. But you can ship carts. They are looking to stop that, though, or has it even been stopped? That was something that they were going to stop.
The vaping. Well, the vapes, they've stopped.
Yeah,
shipping
they stopped.
Products.
Yeah. But so wait, can you ship? But you could still ship those private. Those you just can't send U.S. mail. It just depends on what you're sending and where you want to send it. I think.
You still can't do edibles, though. There's just certain states.
Definitely, yeah, you can't do edibles.
Yeah.
Right. No, heaven forbid we send edibles across state lines, guys. And by the way, we are recording this, we are live streaming this, so there's a digital record forever of this.
Yeah.
That being said,
FDA, we don't cure, treat, help, or anything.
No, everybody's over 21 out there, right? And it's funny, I'm looking at the box, and I think it was the USPS that came to me today. I'm pretty sure it was U.S. Postal Service. Again, I'm just innocent here. I'm just going along for the ride. People send me stuff and I'm like, okay, I'll look at this, whatever. Tell us about what's ahead for the Canna Cook channel, Chelsie. You guys, Chelsie and Chris, you guys are wrapping up your second season. What's your favorite recipe that you like to cook?
Oh my gosh, it's so hard to narrow it down. I love baking. I love making him oatmeal cookies. That's one of his favorite things. The thing we probably make the most in this house is gummies. We go through so much gummies in this house.
And we have patients here that'll have us cook up some for them and stuff too. So that's really been fun.
They go buy their cannabis and give it to us, and then we use all that cannabis to make whatever they want. Which is great.
Season 2's been a lot of fun too. We've done a lot of machine testing this season. We've done the Ardents, the Levos, the Magic Butters, and all that stuff. So that's been a lot of fun.
Yeah, those machines are fun.
Yeah, next year for season 3, we were planning on doing some traveling next year. And then, we found out we were having a kid. So we're kind of reformulating right now what's going to be coming in season 3 right now.
Smart move. I can remember schlepping that diaper bag, wherever we went for the first couple of years. It's we all have to go through it as parents, and it's the toughest job ever. You've signed up for it now for a lifetime. Congratulations.
I know. And I related so much when she said earlier about it being like dog years when you're here in the cannabis industry. Like we've been in it a few years, and I feel like we've done
feels like we've been doing this for 20 years.
And it's like dealing with patients sometimes, and it can be kind of hard to deal with that too. So it's
there's more pluses than there are minuses.
Absolutely,
though, for sure.
And we've done a lot of helping patients get their cards here in Arkansas and directing them where to go and advocating and stuff like that. So we're just going to continue doing that really throughout having Ezra and then go from there.
There you go. Hey, Tara, what's ahead for you? Now, I'm going to tell you something. I've taken a look at your shows. They're terrific. Like, you don't need me to tell you that. We're definitely going to move forward and add them into our lineup, if that's okay with you. Because, eventually we will be streaming 24 hours of original content every day. Wow. So we still have a long way to go. We're at a 12-hour loop now, but we are definitely looking for more contributors to our programming. And I'm going to tell you, we're going to launch a very exciting promotion as we start to share our success story, if you will, for making it happen and seeing the day where we launched. We're going to solicit the public's cannabis stories. We want the public to share either your funny cannabis story or how cannabis saved your life or changed your life, or if you want to come out of the cannabis closet and just tell us that, you've been using it all your whole life, maybe since you were 14, like me,
15.
Told you those 15-year-old females, they're crazy. They're going to try everything at 15. I know. Anyway, I'm really excited about that because ultimately it's going to allow me to teach the broadcasting skills, the oral communication skills that I've been teaching for 15 years now, various colleges. We're going to develop Canna casters. And Tara Misu is really already a Canna caster. She's a contributor to our Weed Talk News program on a weekly basis. Tara, how's that experience been for you? You enjoying it?
Yeah, Weed Talk News is really fun. It's interesting because I've actually found a lot of things lately. It makes me do my homework every week, sometimes when I'm being lazy, because I have to tell you what the biggest things in Jersey were. And sometimes I'm such a workaholic. I'm like, I don't know. I'll figure it out next week. So it's kept me more up to date, but it's also exciting because you do realize how much progress is happening. And I think a lot of people in the country are watching Jersey right now. The Northeast is starting to fall like dominoes. So it's a great market to be able to catch people up on.
That's right. We want to get New Hampshire and Connecticut and Rhode Island to join in the New England fund, if you will. And we do think that might happen, perhaps even in this legislative year of 2021, too. And by the way, Tara, we're talking about 90 seconds, it's not like I'm looking for a documentary every week. You know what's going on in your state because you've been living it for a dozen years.
I do, but like the names, the dates, the times, I don't know. And most of the news that I get, I can't repeat.
Aha. Save that stuff for your show. I have no problem with that. Okay.
Yeah, what does the public know this week? That's what
There
I
you
have
go.
to figure out.
Hey, Jill, tomorrow's 420, just in case you didn't know. Any special things going on at your store?
Oh my, you know what? Actually, I'm closing my store down, which a lot of people were like, what are you doing? I'm like, are you kidding me? I'm closing it down in celebration of 420 because I'm vaccinated. I'm heading into New York City because I'm going to Happy Monkeys party. And then I'm meeting up with Christina. We're going to NASDAQ to celebrate Doreen and my bud base, her launch of going public. And then we're going to go to Happy Monkey, and then we're heading on to a party up at some spa. So I mean, it's back to back part. I mean, it's going to be crazy.
You are truly living the experience. It's I think it was Jim Belushi. He wants to see it be a national holiday at some point in his lifetime. I think that's a stretch, but you know what? It's pretty much recognized now.
I think it's an international holiday, quite honestly.
Yes.
I mean, we've always celebrated, 420 time is across the world.
Right.
And then I think, when it comes to April 20th, it's international at this point. And we're all celebrating, and it's been absolutely crazy with the amount of messages that I've been getting and the party invites, and especially with East Coast, the vaccinations that are happening and people are opening up, and we're all going to still wear our masks and everything, and just, try to social distance and not share joints. But
I bring extra filters.
Joints.
All right. I bring extra filters so that if people are freaked out about it, I go, here's a special filter. And, that way you don't have to worry about it. We've all learned how to be germaphobe, certainly in the last year.
Yeah.
And we respect the right to be a germaphobe. And that's kind of where I think we're at this point. But guys, you've all been very special to me. I want to go out again and say thank you so much for joining us on this little primetime 420 Eve special. And we have another group coming in. The Vote Pro Pot guys are going to be here at 9:30. And I think David Rabinovitz, my co-host on The Green Rush, who I think has been in the waiting room for the last hour and a half, we're going to let him come in for the last half hour. And we're going to talk up until 10 o'clock. So for everybody in this room, thank you again. Tara, we'll see you Thursday. Happy 420. Congratulations, baby boy Miles.
Yeah, congratulations.
In the future. Looking forward to that, and we'll be back with more of the show after this.
Tiramisu, we got
A disgrace. Was this like a kids-only call-in talk show?
Yes, it was.
Oh, that's
yes.
nice.
That segment, yes. Yes, New England Cable News, Jimmy Young, who
I saw him at a bar in the Cape last year.
He loves that clip. I actually talked to him about it, I don't know, a year ago or so.
I talked about him, too, a year ago. I saw him in a Cape at a bar. He played that thing with Beetle all the time.
Yeah, he was at an event with us in Mr. Sid's. I don't know, probably about a year ago, maybe more, maybe a couple of years ago.
Probably
but
2 years, yeah.
We had a laugh about it. We did.
So this is when I got a call from my co-host on Weed Talk Now, Kurt Dalton from Cannabis.net, and he's the one who called me up and says, hey, they're talking about you on 95, the Sports Hub. And I'm like, all right, they're playing that clip from the show again. Sure enough, I had an opportunity to call into the show.
Noontime on a Thursday. We've got to put our baseball conversation on pause for a moment, so we got to go to the phones.
Okay.
This is someone that we were just talking about a moment ago, who's with us now. That would be Jimmy Young, joining us here on Zolak and Bertrand. Jimmy, what's up?
You guys, it takes me back to the day when I had talent, ability, and a job. I really appreciate your...
and last time I remember, curly, kinky hair, right?
Yes, thank you very much. And I just came off the tennis court. It's still curly and kinky, and I still have it, which is the best part.
That's good hearing from you, Jimmy. What's going on?
Nothing. I appreciate you guys, bringing it back from the dead. I'll never forget when Beetle and I met at that Mr. Sid thing, and he showed me the clip of the show that won me the Emmy Award at NECN back in the 90s, the sports special with Drew Bledsoe, when little Mark from Quincy would call in and ask Drew Bledsoe about what he thought of the Cowboys.
So that particular show won the Emmy, right, Jimmy? That was the show that won the Emmy?
Correct. And you, I hadn't seen a clip of that, Mark, honestly, in 25 years. And that's when you showed it to me on your phone, and you shared it with me. And by the way, I do proudly still have it on my phone. It's an honor to be remembered after all these years.
You're welcome. You're welcome for the Emmy, and you're welcome for being remembered.
Jesus. Jimmy, where was that I saw you? Mashpee?
No, well, I do hang in Mashpee. I have friends, with New Thievery and all that. But I ran into Mark at the Mr. Sid event in Newton. The Seagull boys love to bring in the 98.5 guys and have a few drinks and what have you. And
they sure do.
Some good so they do a good job there, too.
They do, and hopefully we'll be doing that soon with them again. Yeah, it's good talking to you, Jimmy. Be well, bud.
Hey, do you guys know what I'm doing now? It's the most bizarre turnaround in a career you've ever heard.
You were doing a lot of the media focused on cannabis, I recall.
Yeah.
Correct. I started a Pro Cannabis Media network. I do weed talk news. So I've gone from sports news to cannabis news. I'm not quite sure what that means to my career, but right now it's a lot of fun. I'm working with a guy named Kurt Dalton on cannabis.net. And we've got thousands of followers. It's pretty bizarre.
I gotta get you in touch. I gotta get you in touch with my brother-in-law. He's one of the big guys in the cannabis company he works for.
Well,
he's more on the financial side, but yeah.
No, but we talked to Bruce Clinton. We talked to Joe Lasardi, the CEO of Curaleaf. We talked to all the biggest names because we are building a cannabis coast-to-coast network. Pretty much a big undertaking. Still fighting that stigma every day, but it's amazing that I've gone from interviewing people like Drew Bledsoe and Scott Zolak to Steve D'Angelo and Tommy Chong. Okay, so there's a career for you.
If I were you, I'd rather hang out with Tommy Chong. If I were you, get more fun, have more fun there.
You've done all right for a backup quarterback. Okay, I'm sorry.
I'm doing all right, Jimmy.
I think you're doing all right. Really well.
All right, Jimmy.
Guys, appreciate you guys remembering me.
See you, buddy.
For the plug. Keep up the good work, and I can't wait for sports to come back.
All right, Jimmy. Jimmy Young, formerly of NECN and the host of Kid Company Sports World. We won an Emmy for that show. Yeah. Sure did. We won an Emmy. We won an Emmy for that one. So.
And by the way, Mark Bertrand, host of Bertrand and Zolak, you really had nothing to do with this, but I certainly appreciate going into the Wayback Machine and reminiscing about what was a great run on New England cable news.
We are Pro Cannabis Media.
One. And we're back. Okay, and this is the last half hour of Primetime Weed Time live on PCM TV. I'm Jimmy Young with Pro Cannabis Media, and we've got a great big finish for you the last half hour. We've got two of the three hosts from Vote Pro podcast out of the Washington, D.C. area. I see Jay Britton's here. Phil Adams is with us. And we have kind of a newcomer to the PCM TV family. His name is Dave Briggs. You might recognize the name. You might recognize the face. He's been a broadcaster for
right now.
Well, how long, Dave?
20 plus years. I guess I lost track. 19, 20, more than 20 years. Good
there
Lord.
You go. And I've been out of it for all that time. So you've filled in for me rather nicely on the job. Thank you. He's worked in Boston. He's worked at CNN. He's worked at Fox. He's a network talent, and he's going to be joining our team with a new show called The Conversation with Dave Briggs. But I had to wait and introduce David Rabinovitz, who I have to say, over the last year or so, has really become a great friend. He's the co-host of the Green Rush Live. He has put his heart and soul into this show, and it is now one of our most popular and our only regularly live streamed program at 4:00 on Fridays. So David Rabinovitz, thank you so much for joining us again here at the last half hour of this one.
Thank you, Jimmy. Next time you need to work everything out with my agent before.
I understand. Dave, we don't like, how's the agent thing? Do you really want to tell Dave, does he really need an agent or want an agent?
Agents suck. Agents have never done me a favor anytime in my 20-year television history. It's just been one dumpster fire after the other.
You know, I'll tell you why I can believe that.
industry.
I tell you why I can believe that, Dave. I keep telling my agent I want better food, I want hair, makeup, I want wardrobe, all these demands I keep making. And every Friday, it's me in a t-shirt trying to find something that's presentable before I plug everything in and get on the air.
Phil and I
Keep
require
shooting for the stars.
when we do live appearances, we have to have yellow M&Ms, right? No, you like the green. I gotta have red M&Ms.
But they gotta be peanut.
I like the blue.
Whoa, whoa, whoa,
no
hold on.
peanut.
Hey,
No,
Jay-
that's
Jay?
not a true M&M, Phil.
Wait a minute. Jay,
Peanut M&Ms?
what's
Not
the
an
name of
M&M?
your agent?
You're looking at it.
That's
Huey, Screw 'em, and Hal. You ever work with them?
Yeah. Yeah.
I knew we would have I knew that this would be a free for all show. This last half hour, which I think is great. I'm going to go around the room and I'm going to ask you guys what 420 means to you. Okay. So, Dave, I'm going to start with you. I see you have the Elway jersey behind you too. That's pretty cool.
Oh, yeah, I like that.
I was at his Super Bowl. I covered that one, the one he won.
Boo. Against the Redskins?
No, excuse me. The one he lost to the
Redskins
it was
beat
the
him.
Broncos and Giants, wasn't it? Broncos and Giants.
We did lose to the Giants. We did lose to the Redskins. We did lose to the Niners.
You're welcome.
But we won two. We won. Elway won two.
And what number did you wear, Dave, for the Broncos? Did I miss something in your career?
Hey, man. I bleed orange and blue, brother.
Okay. They were my high school colors, so I'll let the Broncos get away with it too. That's okay. What does 420 mean to you, Dave Briggs? Being a mainstream media guy, why in the world do you want to become pro cannabis media? That's what I'd like to know.
Well, look, 420 to me right now just means people speaking up and getting government to listen, getting public officials, elected officials to listen. I know in Connecticut, where I am, there's a massive rally at the state capitol in Hartford tomorrow. I know across the country there are rallies like that, but for different people, it means different things. I just think right now it means fucking listen. Excuse my language. Listen to the people. 70% of the American public wants this to be legalized. So elected officials, we put you there for a reason. And Joe Biden, this goes to the very top. Start listening to people. Even a majority of Republicans are now in favor of legalization. So for me, why do I want to get into this? It's helped me a lot. Marijuana has helped me a lot. Deal with back pain. I broke my back when I was 15. I had debilitating headaches for a while when I was working at CNN, not necessarily because of the content, but when I woke up at 1:30 in the morning every day and my doctor finally said, look, I give, man, I think you need to try cannabis. And certainly it worked. And I see it saving lives all over the country, see it saving children. I just think, quite frankly, it makes the world a better place. I think if a lot of people substituted the bourbon for a little, I mean, this is actually THC that I'm drinking right here, a little THC infused seltzer.
I've never gotten a buzz off one of those drinks yet.
Yeah, I drink more than one.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. How many have you had?
In one sitting, I've had one. Okay.
That's the problem.
So should I have 6? Is that what you're saying?
This has 2 milligrams of THC,
Oh,
Jim.
please.
I think you probably need a good
10.
4.
15,
This
I
has
was going to
another
say
2 of Delta
15,
8.
10 to 15 in that range. I'm pretty much done. Phil, what's 420 mean to you?
Well, I think in terms of these like 4 or 5 guys back in 1970?
1971, the Waldos, Little High School. Yep.
And since then it's become this worldwide phenomenon, and it's just kind of a microcosm of what has kind of blossomed with the whole pro cannabis movement. You know, it was just, you know, when I was a teenager just starting out, there was normal and there was pretty much no one else.
Right.
You know, and there was a couple of doctors prescribing, and that was about it. And now, you know, in the same way, it's just grown to be this huge phenomenon. And I think this is all happening because it's time. It's just time.
Well, there certainly is a lot of issues that this touches now. Social justice is obviously, I think, the biggest one. We can talk about prison reform. We can talk about the whole medicinal side of the plant. It's pretty amazing. Jay, what does 420 mean to you in 2021?
The funny thing is, I didn't know that story until we did the show. We started the show about three years ago, and we did one of our first shows we did on that subject. Yeah. I didn't know that's where because there was all these conspiracy theories around for years about all these different reasons where 420 came from, and it turns out it was a bunch of guys in high school saying, "I'll meet you at 420 behind the school, smoke a joint." So what does it mean to me? It's celebratory now. It didn't really mean that much to me before, but now this has become such a great movement. And there's so much going on. It's happening so quickly. We started the show, like I said, it'll be 3 years in June. And just to see what's happened in 3 years is incredible.
Right.
Yeah.
Our partner, Andrew McCready, started Vote Pro Pot about 12, maybe 2013. Just a website. 2014 was, and he was going to rallies in DC. They were trying to get the legalization going in Maryland. And you had a couple of states, and now, good Lord, it's just a snowball that you can't stop, which is great.
Hey, David Rabinovitz, this one's for you. Your last. What does 420 mean to you? You got to unmute yourself. Is he muted?
No, he's thinking.
He's thinking. I've been thinking about this one for a while. What does 420 mean to me? I mean, it is the day that potheads revere, and you mix the day and the time, and I think weird things happen in the sky at 4:20 a.m. and 4:20 p.m. on April 20th. It's just like some weird phenomenon where all the 420s come together.
Well, I will not be up at 4:20 this morning. I just want to say, because I'll be at Rev Clinics at 9:30 in the morning, getting ready for our all-day remote from there. And we're going to be checking in different dispensaries. To me, guys, it's very simple. It's history. We're all part of history right now. And every single one of us has an opportunity to be part of that. And I see a lot of more people wanting to be part of it now than ever before. The fact that we can talk about it openly, the fact that, that there's policy in Washington, D.C., and it's a political issue now. I mean, that alone freaks me out, because it was just the other day that it was, it still is Schedule 1. It still is illegal federally.
Well, Jim,
but they're clinging to it now. Do you know that?
Yeah.
I'm curious what you said there, that we're free to talk about it. Just to pull back the curtain a little bit, we talked about agents a moment ago off air. I talked to an agent today who I told I was coming on this program, and who I told that I'm actually going to be doing some advertising for Curaleaf. And he said, "Do you want to work in mainstream media again?" And I said, "I don't know. I don't know the answer to that question. I don't watch it anymore. I don't watch cable news anymore, but it may blackball me from getting back into national media. So I don't know if we're as progressive as you think we are today. I think it's still a stigma that needs to be reversed. And that's what I hope 420 means. And it's not just a bunch of stoners in the basement, that it's dads and moms and CEOs and athletes and artists and all of us, Black, white, Hispanic, that it's all of us that realize this is a powerful medicine, not just somebody getting stoned in the basement.
It's responsible use of an adult product, guys. It just is. If you can do it that way, it can enhance your life in many, many ways. And for a lot of us, it has. And Dave, you remember that was the first thing I talked to you about when we started talking about you joining us, right?
Yeah.
Because you're the father of 3 boys. 3 boys or 2 boys and a girl?
2 girls and a boy. Yeah.
Whatever, 2 girls, 3 kids. And I said,
whatever.
Think about this, Dave, before you do it. So I'm glad that the agent also said the same thing to you, because it makes me feel like, okay, you knew I had your best interest in heart, right?
But yes, but that's why I want to start this show, The Conversation, just to have conversations with people that normalize it, like Calvin Johnson, like Chris Webber. I just saw today Jaleel White, the kid that played Urkel. Remember Urkel back in the day?
Purple
He's starting
Urkel.
his own. Yeah, Purple Urkel. Yeah.
I saw
and just
that.
to kind of normalize the conversation around it. and kill the stigma a little bit. And again, that's what this campaign from Curaleaf that you'll hear about soon is designed to do as well. Is just pull back the curtain and normalize it. Yeah.
Right. Oh no,
I think that's happening slowly but surely. And just a moment ago, we were talking about how quickly this has all happened, and for a lot of people who have been on the anti-drug side for their entire adult life, they're like, whoa, wait a minute. I thought this was a drug. I thought this was bad for you. I thought this was illegal. And all of a sudden everybody's happy about it. And it's going to take some time for certain folks to adjust. And the more it becomes legal, and especially federally legal at some point, maybe people are going to start to say, it's not the stigma that we thought it was. You're not going to get blackballed by talking about weed.
But in order for that to happen, it has to be legal.
I think it's
got to get it off Schedule 1.
I don't even know if you need to get it off Schedule 1. I think the Safe Banking Act goes through. I think you're going to see that's going to have a major impact, because now you have the financial institutions of America, your local banks will be able to service cannabis businesses.
Mm-hmm. Right. I think you're absolutely
Think about it. It's open up a strip joint and try to go get a bank account. You can get a marijuana account sometimes easier than you can for running that kind of place.
Phil and I have been working.
Have you have any experience with that, David? Because I'd never heard that before, actually.
You mean going
Sounds
out?
like you know what you're talking about, buddy.
Going out to get the banking? Jimmy, you mean to go out and get the bank account or to run the place?
I don't even know where we went on that one.
Yeah, how did we get out there?
Dave, you had something. I think you wanted to interject something. Did you have something? It's okay if you didn't. I'm not going to put on this. Yeah. You're Dave. I just want you to know he's David, you're Dave.
I could go all day on this, but I mean,
I think strip joints
again, the strip joints, just full disclosure, strip joints are not my thing, man. Just don't really understand.
The wife's watching, right?
You don't understand?
No.
Hey, Dave, maybe we should look, why don't we get together? We'll go and I'll explain it to you.
I've been to a few. It's just not my thing. Not my bag,
many years.
I'd rather be out at the fire pit smoking a joint with some good-looking girls from my. Anyway, we digress. You. But no matter what side of the media I worked on, and I worked at Fox News and CNN, believe it or not, and still you don't hear anything about cannabis in general. You don't hear anything about the medicinal benefits. It's still, I think there's a lot longer way to go than you guys realize. And I don't think the Safe Banking Act will have any impact on the conversation or the stigma. Nor do I think it'll get through the Senate. This is the same number that it got through in the Senate in 2019. I think the exact same House vote.
321, 101. Yeah, it was 103 the last time, I think.
It was 103 the last time. So it's almost the exact same. And are you going to get all the Democrats aligned to support anything right now with Joe Manchin in West Virginia? I'd be surprised. I think what will help is if Chuck Schumer, and if he's a man of his word, he said he's going to do this without Joe Biden. That will really help. If you can get a bill out of the Senate, if Chuck Schumer writes it, then I think, wow, then the conversation will really move. But look, Virginia helped, Arizona, a red state, we're 3-1. Marijuana is 3-1 in deep red states since 2012. And I think 13 of 15 since 2012. So it's moving in the right direction for sure.
Dave makes a really great point. And that we've covered this on our show, is how little the press covers it, really.
Right.
Not at all.
I mean, I'm in Virginia, and this was a tremendous news last week. You barely saw it on the news anywhere. And the same with every other big story that breaks with cannabis. You never see it on the national news, or I shouldn't say never, almost never. Right. And locally, we've had huge things happen here in the last 6 months in Virginia alone, obviously. You'd have to flip around all day to find it anywhere in the news. So it's interesting to me how the press is just afraid of it. So I think Dave's point's well made.
I am not.
CNBC does a little coverage, though.
CNBC is not afraid of
it. No, not afraid of it. I want to talk about it, and I think everybody should talk about it. And I get disgusted when I watch.
That's why you're here, buddy.
Right. That's right. Well, that's why we started this, and I appreciate everybody jumping on and sharing this with me too, because it is frustrating. And Dave, you and I have spent a lot of time in newsrooms. Okay. And when something negative happens in the cannabis space, and it can be a violation, it can be a clerical error of a licensee, right? And that leads the news. That leads the news, right? Because after all, the new industry made a mistake that a lot of new industries might make, but it's cannabis.
Right.
So we know there are people interested in it. In fact, now 69% want to see it legalized, but that is never going to be, you're not going to see balanced coverage yet because it is still a sensational media. They want, it's headline driven news. And as you guys know, the attention spans of people now are about the length of a headline, right? 3 to 5 seconds. So I don't know how that's going to happen.
That's not just, you're not just seeing that with cannabis. You're seeing that with COVID. You're seeing that with politics. I mean, if it bleeds, it leads. That's really the mentality. Negativity really does sell a lot better than positivity. I mean, look at Facebook. If you're on Facebook for 5 minutes, it's the garbage that really spreads, that divisive crap. How often does like a nice positive story spread on social media?
You're not doing yourself any good with your agent right now, Dave. I'm just saying.
He's done with the agent. He knows.
I think you are done.
He does his first cannabis interview conversation with PCM.
I'm gone.
You're screwed, bro.
That's right. But I like the fact that you're doing something with Curaleaf. Do you want to explain a little bit, or is that still under the hush hush world?
I probably shouldn't have mentioned it at all. So no, it's not public yet, but it is going to be a national campaign, which we'll be able to talk about.
That's great.
With you very soon. The intent here is really to normalize it, not necessarily to promote Curaleaf products, which I'm a fan of, but no, just really to have normal conversations around it. So I look forward to telling you all about it.
Well, I was wondering when that might change, because you look at the Super Bowl and they couldn't run that ad, and you really don't see you can't advertise if you're a dispensary or if you're in any kind of cannabis business.
Right.
So I think that's fantastic. And I guess the angle will be more of a social angle than a sales angle, which is even better. That's what it sounds like.
There was, I'm from Denver, obviously, with the Elway jersey. There was an ad on last week for a dispensary called Live Well, which was the first, I think, in the nation on the NBC affiliate KUSA, which is the #1 station in town. And there was a Live Well ad that ran about a week ago. And so that I thought was a huge step for the industry. Yeah.
I'd like to see more of that. There was, I think you guys know Legal Seafoods is a kind of a recognized name up and down the East Coast. They have always been known for their provocative commercials. And I want to say a year ago, September 2019, I believe it was, we had Roger Berkowitz, who was then the CEO of Legal Seafoods, in our studio, and we interviewed him about that campaign because it was like, it's 420. Our fish are getting high on omega-3s,
Really?
And it was a very cleverly done campaign. And I saw it as a sign of normalcy. It's like, hey, look at this, a legitimate restaurant, chain, well-known, certainly in the Boston area. And now they're saying, hey, it's legal, right? They have a great little shirt. In fact, I gave the legal t-shirts to Bruce Linton, who is kind of a legend in the cannabis space, as you guys know, and he loved that shirt. But like everything, think times fly when we have some really good conversations here. So I want to go around, make sure everybody gets a good plug in. Tell me a little bit about who's coming up next on Vote Pro podcast, guys, and what might be coming up next to Phil on We Talk News, because you've been a regular with us since the beginning. And how's that worked out for you? Have you enjoyed that experience?
Oh, I'm loving it. I just love it. It keeps me on top of what's happening inside the Beltway, and you guys are great to work with. It's my 2 minutes each week. I love putting it together, and I love doing it. So
great. Well, we've enjoyed having you on, and Jay, I know that we share some of the appearances that I've had on your podcast in the past, and I totally want to do that again. But more importantly, I think it's time for us to work together so we can make it more visual, because what we're doing, Dave Briggs, do you know the term visual radio?
No.
Okay, so Google it, because it's a real thing and we're actually doing it right now. what we've created with this 24/7 live stream on Roku is a format. It's a talk format that is pro cannabis. And for those that have been in media or understand radio, there's a classic rock channel. There's a country music format. There's a sports talk format. Well, we're lending legitimacy through a visual medium and we're talking about cannabis in a positive way and looking at it like you would any other new industry. But there's that historic perspective that I'm so proud of as well. And that's what we're doing. This is visual radio. And sure, I always say if it looks like TV, acts like TV, we produce it like TV, it's TV. But it's really not, because it's just a bunch of talking heads. And I get that. But it is truly a format. So, Jay, when you hear that, what goes through your mind when you think of visual radio?
I think of Phil and I have faces for radio. So that's why we really haven't gotten into the video thing. We tried the video thing and we would do it for sure. For you, I mean, we would definitely be interested in that because we love what you're doing there at PCM. I think it's really important and it's a lot of fun. The thing about us is we're not like, wonk, nerdy, know everybody in the Senate and stuff. But we're in DC, so we cover that, but we have a lot of fun with it too. Yeah. And you asking who we have a lot of guests. That's something that's really happened recently for us. One of the things we have coming up, I think next week, Phil, we're interviewing, let me find, there's a new movie on Prime Video, Amazon Prime. And
it's not Weediatrics, is it?
Yes. We've got the producer.
Are you interviewing Erin?
Yes.
The producer? Okay, so I interviewed her last week. It was
of
on
course
In the
you
Weeds.
did.
Of course I did, right.
Always scooping us, man.
It's a perfect, she's a great interview.
Is she?
And
good?
it's a great documentary on, again, how cannabis has impacted parents' lives. Imagine if you had a sick child, you're a parent, that cannabis can help your child, and you're in an illegal state and you're giving cannabis to minor. And you basically are putting your parenting on the line because child services could take that kid right away from you.
Right. We haven't watched it yet, but we've been inundated with folks that want to come on the show, which is a great sign. So we've kind of gone from just doing news to doing more interviews. So that's what we have coming up.
And Kurt Dalton has just 2 more appearances to become the Tom Hanks of Vote Pro podcast.
Oh, that's good. Well, he never says no to an opportunity to talk. It's one of the things I like about Kurt, believe me.
Yeah, he's a lot of fun. And one of our best interviews ever was Jimmy. He told some stories that had nothing to do with weed, but had us on the floor, man.
Well, because I partied since I was younger. Dave
Same
Briggs,
with us.
Can you share who's the most famous person that you've ever shared a party? Because I'll share my story. If you tell me your story, I'll tell you my story.
Phil's definitely the most famous person I've ever shared a joint with.
Shared pot with.
Yeah.
I don't think I've ever consumed with anyone even remotely famous.
Wow.
I've done plenty of interviews and had plenty of drinks with those, but no, I don't know that I'm that public about it. Now that's about to change, obviously.
So Jimmy's not in that category, huh?
I was a guest at the home of football legend Jim Brown on 4th of July, 1985 or 4.
Is that right?
Wow.
Yep. And we passed the joint.
That's fantastic. I love hearing that. I love Jim Brown.
Well, I was a musician in LA and I passed a joint with a few people at the Troubadour, but most of them are dead from heroin overdoses now. So
that's the sad part of it. David, do you know who's the most famous person you've ever smoked weed with? I'm sorry. I had to do it. David?
Me?
Yeah, you.
Most famous person.
You keep waking him up, Jimmy. Come on, man.
He's throwing a question like that at me. The most famous person I've ever smoked weed with?
Yeah.
Me. Jimmy, I'm the co-host of the Green Rush Show with Jimmy Young.
There you go.
All right.
Tell your story, Jimmy. It's a great one. You got to real quick. I know you got to go.
Well, Dave, here's the thing. I'm not going to use the last name because.
Oh, here we go.
I'm not going to use the last name, but his first name is Jerry.
Okay, that'll work.
Seinfeld?
Now, I didn't say that, right, guys?
You're right.
But he was in the back seat of my car. ex-wife number one was friendly with Carol Leifer, who was the executive producer. Yes, there's two out there. Okay, I just want to say. Anyway, it was the 86 World Series. I was covering it at Fenway Park, Dave. I was coming back in a limo back to a limo bus back to the Portland Jetport because they couldn't afford to put me on a plane. So they stuck me on a bus. Okay. My ex-wife picked me up at the airport, and in the back seat was Carol Leifer, okay, who was the executive producer, former stand-up comic. I'm pretty sure she was married to Paul Reiser at one point. Jerry and Larry Miller, who is a very famous actor from Hollywood, I might add. He was in Pretty Woman. He was the clerk in Pretty Woman. He was a regular on the Today Show.
I love Larry Miller.
Yeah, we all love Larry. He's one of the funniest guys that I ever got to meet. They were in the back seat, pull out a little cigarette, and we go up to LL Bean at midnight, and going through the hat section with Jerry and Larry was the funniest 20 minutes of my life. My sides hurt so bad. You can imagine the trying on all the hunter hats, right? The Elmer Fudd, the old Elmer Fudd thing was coming out. It was a riot. And then, of course, Carol paged Jerry on the PA and said, Mr. Seinfeld, will you please come get your child? You left your child in the area. Please come down to Lost and Found. It was a lot of fun. I've had a few of those. Let's just
Who
say.
are these people?
But that's my favorite story. And
that's pre-Seinfeld, though. I mean, Jerry, that's pre the show.
It was 86. It was right after he made his first appearance on the Carson show.
Yeah, he wasn't yet famous.
I think I saw him at the Comedy Store about
True.
Whoa, hold on. Whoa, back up for a minute. I have a question here. I thought the question was, who was the most famous person you spoke with? If you guys have now deduced that Jerry Seinfeld was not famous when Jimmy smoked with him, that doesn't count.
That's a technicality, but you're out of
it. It was
there.
on the Tonight Show.
It counts. It counts.
All right.
He's a legend.
Thank you, Dave.
Legend.
You can stay now. All right. Hey, guys. This was a lot of fun. I knew that this would be the most fun half hour. Thank you all. It's great. We're shaking things up now. I think it's just the beginning in 2021. Pretty soon we're actually going to have these conventions again and get to go. I know October MJ BizCon is going to be a lot of fun. We are going to be there. I don't know if we'll be doing live when we're there, but we'll definitely be covering that event for sure. So that's it. And hopefully Dave Briggs, the conversation, we'll see it sooner rather than later, right?
We will see it by the beginning of next month, and let's do everything live at MJ Biz Con in October. I'll go, and we'll just broadcast around the clock, man. What are you afraid of?
I'm never afraid of doing anything live, as you can tell. And Dave, alongside you, I think the future is bright for all of us here, and I appreciate you joining the team. I'm looking forward to it.
Good to see you guys. This was fun. Let's do it again.
Great. You bet. Phil Adams, we'll see you Thursday. Jay, always a pleasure. And David, be prepared for Friday. I get my second shot on Thursday. So we'll give it a shot. We'll see what happens.
Good luck with that.
Thank you, everybody who's watched and has already kind of supported the Pro Cannabis Media effort here, all the contributors to the show. And there's a couple that are behind the scenes that I do want to mention. Mr. Dan French, our video director, and Isabel Turner, our production coordinator, and Sarah Galt, our social media coordinator. So for everybody here in the Pro Cannabis Media family, thank you all for watching. Remember, it's a whole new world of weed out there. Use it responsibly, Dave Briggs. See you later, everybody.
PCM TV is supported by Salient Systems, a world leader in video management security, and by Revolutionary Clinics, a medical dispensary where the patient comes first, and by Accounting Buds, your #1 CPA specialist for the cannabis industry.
Hi, I'm Ben Schauer, New England rep for Salient Video Management Systems. Let me tell you what makes us different in the security space. We're your trusted advisors for all your security needs. I know how complicated the regulations are in cannabis, and working with Salient Systems will be the polar opposite of that. I give free consultations and will walk you through every step of the process so that you can get what you need at the price you can afford. We're robust, we're simple and scalable. We're Salient Systems, your solutions to all your security needs. Please contact me at the information below, and I'm looking forward to being your trusted advisor.
Weed Talk and In the Weeds are two productions of Pro Cannabis Media supported by Revolutionary Clinics, one of the top medical cannabis dispensaries in the Massachusetts area, now with 3 locations in Greater Boston, 2 in Cambridge and 1 on Broadway in Somerville. Rev Clinics has a patient-first mission. They will customize your needs as a medical patient with the proper titration and combination of strains, flavors, and products. Rev Clinics, where the patient comes first. Pro Cannabis Media programming is available live and on demand on our Facebook page at Pro Canna Media, on Instagram at Pro Cannabis Media, on LinkedIn also at Pro Cannabis Media, on YouTube and YouTube Live on Pro Cannabis Media, Twitter at Pro Canna Media, and on twitch.tv/Pro Cannabis Media. So like, share, and subscribe to all of our content, newsletters, and shows live or on demand.
We are Pro Cannabis Media.